I definitely have an accent in Urdu. I just don't speak enough with you, so it doesn't show. But I sound
Okay,
like
so
a
say something in
moron.
Urdu.
Okay. Give
Yeah,
me a
that's
topic. Give me a topic. आज मैं ठीक
so.
हूँ. Please,
आज
like, it just, yeah. Shut up. Okay, my
no,
grammar is so
no,
bad. My grammar is not right at
no,
all.
that was too short. Maybe something like,
Hmm.
आपको क्या लगता है आज पाकिस्तान जीतेगा कि इंडिया जीतेगा?
Inshallah, आज पाकिस्तान जीतेगा. इसलिए because both their hoagie हम नहीं जीते. So I think it's a time that we. You know what? Okay, whatever. Let's move on.
No, yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, but I get nervous. So yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Popcord. Today we'll be interviewing Sara, a mid-20s Pakistani from Hong Kong. Sara was born and raised in Hong Kong and travels occasionally to Pakistan, so she has a pretty unique perspective, which I'm sure many of us would love to hear. Now, before we start, just a heads up, my voice is a little muffled in this one because I didn't have my main microphone for this call, so I'll try not to let that happen again, but please excuse it for this time.
Hey, so I'm Sara. I'm born and raised in Hong Kong, and I'm here to talk about my life as a Hong Konger. Like, I know people say, "Oh, you're Hong Kongese, or you're from Hong Kong. What do you call yourself?" And usually it's Hong Konger or Hong Kongian. So I can speak Cantonese, but I'm not very good at it. So
Yeah.
I'm in my mid-20s. I'm not really like I'm old, I could say, but I'm not like old enough to say, "Oh no, she's gonna hit 30 soon." So that's not it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: do you live with your parents?
Yes, I currently do live with my parents because honestly, one of
Cool.
the biggest problems of living in Hong Kong is not just living, it's also that you can't afford to move out. Like, even if you were
Mhm.
Chinese, a guailo, which is what we call a foreigner, like it means foreign devil, but also means like a white person. If you were even that, it's very hard to live on your own. So you kind of like live with your parents until you're married, which is like Pakistani culture, until
Right.
you can actually move out, and afford to. That's usually after marriage. So.
Makes sense. And it's probably not just about the money too, right? It's also just family culture. I think Asian
True, yeah,
family values. Yeah.
yes. My family follows a lot of like those Chinese kind of like ideology. I'm not sure if we do it intentionally, but it just matches, our beliefs and their beliefs. So we do follow a lot of the traditions as well, and it's closer to be a family as well, like while you have time, because, shadi ke baad, you don't know what happens afterwards. So yeah.
Cool. So how did you guys end up in Hong Kong? You weren't born there, right?
No, I was born here. My
You were?
grandfather
Okay.
my grandfather came to Hong Kong, like I would say early 60s. And then my dad was born here. And then my aunt and uncle were also here. And then my dad married my mom in the 90s or whatever. And then we just got a
Wow.
whole family kind of going on. So yeah, and I was born like that time as well. Yeah. Oh, that's just, yeah, it's just, I don't tell people like, oh, I'm born in Hong Kong, but
I'm guessing you know 3 languages: English. Yeah.
yes.
So you know English, Urdu, and Cantonese.
Yes, and I did take
Wow.
Putting While is what we call Mandarin, like in high school and secondary and university. But I was never good at it because it's just people say it's easier, honestly, but I think it's harder because I've been listening to Cantonese a lot more, like Canto Pop and on the MTR, which is our subway, our metro. So it's just easier to speak Cantonese, but I would say both are quite difficult languages. So yeah, I do speak Cantonese, but like I would say intermediate level.
Right.
Yeah.
And how different are they actually? Is it like Mexican Spanish and Spain Spanish, like that much of a difference?
No.
Or
Okay.
it's
So
a
for
lot
example,
more different?
I'm gonna say like "Mark you Sara," which is like "I am Sarah." That's in Cantonese. But if I were to say it in Mandarin, it'd be like "我是 Sara." So it's totally like the opposite, like yeah. Again, I'm if you're from China or from Hong Kong and you're speaking Cantonese, then don't judge me for this because I'm not the best. Really, my accent I've heard is okay, but I think it's atrocious. So don't judge me, guys.
Yeah. One time I was watching this Donnie Yen movie, like this martial arts movie.
Oh yeah, he's huge. Yeah.
And yeah, he was speaking, I guess, Mandarin in it, and they kept telling him to stop talking in Mandarin, talk in Cantonese because they were in Hong Kong, something like that. I thought maybe that you could still communicate, if one person speaks Mandarin, one person speaks Cantonese, but it seems
Honestly,
like that's not the case.
you definitely could though if you're like from Hong Kong, because again, Cantonese is a dialect only in the Canton regions, like Guangdong, Shenzhen, Hong Kong. That's where we speak Cantonese, and majority is Mandarin, which is what you guys hear in the media or in day-to-day life. But in Hong Kong, it's like actually a lot of political stuff behind that. Like the language, what should we speak right now? But most kids, like most local kids, are taught both languages or just are very accustomed to speaking in both. So if you were to speak in Cantonese in China, maybe it wouldn't work. But if you were to speak in Mandarin in Hong Kong, then definitely people would understand you and would respond accordingly.
Wow, yeah, makes sense. So your English is actually really good. How did you learn English?
Thank you. I don't know. I guess my parents are accentless, so it helps to have like sort of a background where you don't grow up with an accent. Which again, there's nothing wrong with the accent thing. It's just that I don't think I have one, and it's because of like media consumption. I used to watch a lot of TV, a lot of Western media as well, a lot of Western TV, like Sesame Street and British programming, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like my accent is basically like I don't know. I was born via the television, I guess I could say, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe I'm stereotyping, but when you speak English, I don't notice any Chinese accent in there. And then when you speak Urdu, I don't notice any English accent. So you're pretty good at changing your accent, I guess.
That is very sweet. Thank you. But I'm not changing. It's just natural to me. It's more of like the speaking sort of ways. But,
yeah, and one of the hardest languages in the world, so I would
not brag about that because I'm not good enough yet. I'm thinking of taking like Mandarin lessons. Yeah, the country that is not important anymore. It's Mandarin that I want to learn because that is like the future.
Well, really? Why is that? Why is Mandarin the future?
Honestly, okay, so China, as you know, is not even growing power. It is one of the biggest powers out there right now in terms of economy, in terms of political, what have you, whatever, right? So when China, is in every single business aspect of the world, you need to know the language, of course. And being in Hong Kong, like literally every job description, every JD, everything you try to get part of will ask for Mandarin, will ask that you should be fluent or you should have Chinese word processing or whatever. So that's one thing. In terms of business, you need to know the language. And two, like, I think it is the biggest language in the world. Maybe one is English and two is Chinese. Yeah. So that's,
No, it's one Chinese and two is Spanish, I believe. And then third is English.
Seriously? Okay. I thought it was the opposite.
Yeah. I always thought everybody knows English, right? So that's probably the number one language, but no. Number one is Mandarin. And then they also mentioned that Mandarin is the number one language to learn within the next 30 years to do business.
Yeah, so I knew that, but to hear that in that sort of way, it's it's scary, like we have to catch up. I live here and I have no excuse, but we definitely need to catch up and get.
Well, I'm way behind you, so.
You still could learn it, like come on, like you can still like.
It's so intimidating though, yeah.
It is, but I know that a lot of people are learning it though. And there are a lot of Americans in Hong Kong, like you guys, who picking it up, they want to learn Putonghua, so they go to universities, they go to classes, just to. YMCA as well has a school here, so they just learn the language. Mm-hmm. I have no reason to say that I'm not doing it yet. I'm just lazy, but
Yeah. Right. So have you traveled to China a lot? Is it easy to travel across Hong Kong to China?
This is, again, political leanings. I'm sorry this is going that way. But it used to be if you had a Pakistani passport. So I have dual passport. So as a Pakistani passport, it would be much easier to travel. But some recent law or whatever, so they made it like you have to apply for a visa. And the visa application is just so long and you need so much proof, whatever. So it's a lot harder to travel to China. If you're like a Chinese ethnically born in Hong Kong, then it's a lot easier. You could just get a card and that would easy travel. But for someone like me who's not ethnically Chinese, you have to get a visa or pay extra or get the passport. So but I do travel to China quite a bit and it's the best place for shopping. It literally is shopping paradise because stuff that you get, I'm not sure if do you guys use Taobao in America, Taobao or AliExpress? Oh,
AliExpress, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's all from China, right? And it's much cheaper if you buy it from the source. That's the point. That's why it's doing so well. So people from Hong Kong travel there a lot, and also for massage parlors, which is pretty big.
Really? So they're much cheaper in China?
So much cheaper. Everything you can do in Hong Kong is so much cheaper.
Right. How far inland do you normally go though? Have you gone as far as let's say Shanghai?
No, I would love to go Shanghai and Beijing. Actually, no, I would love to go to Xiamen, and this is the most. I don't know, it's obviously who I am right now, but I would love to go to Xiamen. I've been to Luwu, Macau, which is the closest stations, but also to Shenzhen in general. So Shenzhen is very close to Hong Kong, and it's you can drive there. Probably had a license, but yeah, I've just been there. I want to travel more though, just getting the time and the visa.
Yeah, and you're right there, so it's so much, I think, accessible to you than, say, compared to me, because I wanted to go to China for a long time, just because I love the scenery, the culture. Yeah. So I see all these videos on YouTube.
Honestly, cultural haven, yeah, I fully understand.
Yeah, really nice scenery, jungles and fields, tea farms and things like that. And
you would enjoy it. How far is the flight for you if you were to travel to China? Like, have
I
you
don't
been
know.
there?
It would.
Yeah, you want to go, but like, yeah.
It would be. Yeah, it would be really. Yeah, it would be really long. I'm sure from here.
Okay, but definitely if you're traveling, for like a long time, I would say come to China just for the experience, just for what you described. It's all
Yeah.
here, Yeah.
But one thing that scares me is how English friendly is it? I've heard Hong Kong is a lot easier for people who don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is Hong Kong is more tourist friendly from what I've heard. And in
I would
China, you can actually get lost in.
I would agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Major cities in China do have better grasp of the language. Beijing, Shanghai, Xiamen is very
Yeah.
Western oriented as well. But yeah, that's all the major cities. Like if you were to go to like maybe like a province or like a city like Sichuan, which is like famous for spicy food,
Oh, yeah.
I would guarantee that they would not know how to speak English because it's not a thing there, right? Like why would you have to? So Hong Kong, yeah, definitely. But Hong Kong also you need to have some like knowledge of Cantonese there, just like lei ho, like how are you, that kind of stuff. Because we're not the most tourist-friendly city, despite our claims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I guess I just learned that about any country in general because my wife and I went to Costa Rica last week.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I don't know any Spanish, right? But I have to learn a few phrases just to be able to be respectful to people over there. So when they say hola to
Exactly.
you, I mean, hola is really easy, but if they say if they say something more complicated, like can I take your order or how can I help you, then you should be able to respond a little bit in Spanish.
Right.
And
I think it's please and thank you. Yeah, that's
yeah,
really cool.
exactly.
So could you like flex a little bit right now? Can you show a little bit like Spanish that you picked up? That'd be kind of cool. Like,
Yeah.
do you remember any of it?
Well, yeah, I mean a little bit, but I think I learned a few like key phrases. Like pura vida is a big one in Costa Rica. Pura vida means simple life,
Oh, okay.
and they say that all the
Yeah.
time. Pura vida,
That's
yeah.
so cool. Okay.
And then just like a few phrases here and there, but nothing big. But my point was like when I went there, I was so unprepared, right? Because I was just expecting them to like speak my language, and that's really selfish of me.
No, it's just a general presumption we all have.
Yeah, the resort where we stayed was very English friendly. Most people did speak English to us,
That's
but
great.
I just felt bad not showing effort on my part. So after the first day, I just started learning a little Spanish on my phone, and I put in some effort, and people really appreciated that.
And that definitely helps. Like even Hong Kong, if you were to speak a bit of Cantonese, I guarantee you would have admirers immediately. They're like, wow, like you know Cantonese, you're so cool. Like you put effort in knowing. I think same for us though. If we're in Pakistan and some white guy came up to us and spoke in Urdu, we'd definitely have a reaction like, okay, you're teaching our language. Right. I think similar, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Yeah. So, okay. So tell me this: your grandfather came in the 1960s, right, to Hong Kong?
Yes.
Yeah. How many other Pakistanis are there that basically were born there in Hong Kong?
Honestly, I would say quite a few. Like, if we go to the history lesson again right now, then in the 50s and 40s, we definitely had a lot of people coming, I guess the partition time, people came to Hong Kong and they became policemen, because at that time we're under British rule, so it'd be easier. So we have quite people from before my grandmother's time who were here beforehand, and they're the ones who told them to come to Hong Kong, who are constables, who are like superior people in the police force in Hong Kong, and then that's how it got sort of, some people have been born here. And nowadays we get a lot of people who are immigrating here as well from Pakistan because they know that, also one thing for sure is schooling. In my university, I met a lot of people who are doing masters who are from the army in Pakistan who want to pursue like engineering in Hong Kong because I went to the university that was known for engineering. So we get a lot of those people as well, who are here for education and then they get working visa and they stay here because you get permanent residency after 7 years. So it's a lot easier to assimilate afterwards, yeah.
So are they pretty open to foreigners then?
Yes and no, honestly. It depends on how willing. Honestly, the main thing is language. They're open for foreigners into tourism for sure. But if you were to live here and to have like a happy time here, then language is really important. And if you don't know that, you probably wouldn't enjoy much living here, honestly. And one of the biggest downside of Hong Kong is the people. I know in Pakistan a lot of people, in America a lot of people, but you feel it so much more because Hong Kong at its core is a very small and tiny city. Like, we're tiny, guys. We're smaller than like...
That's strange to hear because it's one of the biggest cities in the world. But I guess you could say because it's not a country of its own, right? It's kind of a city country.
Yeah, we're literally a city. We're like special, technical SAR, special administrative region. So we're tiny. So you definitely feel the people, the crowdedness, like the annoyance you have with how slow they walk over here. So yeah.
Yeah, right. So you work in the business field, right?
Yeah, I work in business, which I got lucky at the company I'm working at right now because they didn't have language requirement. So I did flex a bit, like, I can speak Cantonese, I can do this, but you don't have to because we're more international leaning towards. So if you work for an MNC, you would definitely fare well better if you were like a non-Chinese speaking. Yeah.
Right. So do you do pretty well, I guess? Like, do you get a good response from people when you're working, considering that you know Cantonese and you're...
Definitely. It helps a lot to meet, like, people who are senior to you, and they're like, oh, can you speak Cantonese? And you're like, yeah, I can. And then it sort of breaks,
Right.
like, it's like an icebreaker as well. If you, like, should say a little few words, they start laughing, you start laughing, and it just helps to make connections as well in your industry and outside of it. So definitely, I think I get along quite well with my colleagues as well. It's quite easy.
Yeah, that's good. So I think you might have already answered this, but what are, like, most Pakistanis doing? What's the most common job over there in Hong Kong?
I would say my perspective might be a bit skewed because I just knew from my childhood what I saw. And to be honest, I don't have that many Pakistani friends. I have maybe, like, off the top of my head, like 7 or something Pakistani friends. But the ones I grew up with and the ones who left school and the ones who, they usually become blue collar workers. Like, they become truck drivers, like construction workers. Some who do really well become, like, iBankers, like insurance, like, insurance bankers or whatever they're called. I don't know if that's still happening right now because in my class, in my graduating class in university, we were all Chinese. So I didn't have a lot of exposure to Pakistanis in, like, tertiary education or something.
Okay, so Sarah, you have a lot of experience traveling, right? From what I know of you.
Yeah, I would say I do.
And you've been to the United States yet?
No, that's actually my next plan. Like, New York, I'm coming. I hope next year.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, yeah, you're working on that. So you've been to London, you've been to Pakistan several times, right? And you've lived in Hong Kong, grew up and raised there. And then besides that, you've traveled to a lot of countries, right?
Yes, I have.
What would you say life is like for, I guess it's specifically growing up as a woman, especially, how is life different for you there versus how women are raised in Pakistan and then how Pakistani women are living in Britain? Like, what is your perspective on that? What's a better ideal place to live in?
Before I begin, and I hope this stays in the podcast, is that I am not speaking with 100% authority on this because I have not been raised in Pakistan to give an accurate answer to this, or in London, or in England, or in Europe in general. But I did study in Europe for a bit. But I would say if you're a Pakistani woman, girl, whatever you are, you're ethnically different, I would say it's best to live in London or in England in general or in a more multicultural, multi-ethnic sort of location because in Hong Kong we're very closed-minded. You don't want to experience new culture. You want to stay in your own life. You want to be very Hong Kong, very local. And if you don't connect locally to the culture, like to, the sayings, the trends, the media, whatever, it's hard to fit in. So as a woman as well, or as anyone, a guy, whatever you are, listening to this person, you would definitely fit better in London or a place where English is the main language or where the culture is so diverse, it's so multifaceted. You would enjoy it a lot more. But, as a female, as like a lady, as like a woman, whatever, definitely in Hong Kong, it's not a big deal. We don't have that sort of huge problem where women are hired less or men are hired more. Even though my industry that I'm in right now is quite male dominated. But definitely the language is the biggest thing holding you back. If you don't fit in with the language, you don't have many Chinese friends, more many local friends, and you can't really fit in, so life gets a lot harder. And you only have foreign friends, where you all struggle to even read the menu at restaurants or to go out to Lang Kwai Fong, which is like a club or a district or whatever, like a city area. You just struggle a lot more. For Pakistan, I would say definitely, I heard that the statistic for working as a female in Pakistan is quite low. I'm not sure if you can verify that or something.
So only, I think, 25% of women in Pakistan that are working age are actually working. And that's the lowest in South Asia. It's not just low across the globe, it's the lowest in South Asia. So Bangladesh, Nepal, India, they all have higher rates of working for women. Still pretty low compared to the rest of the world. But Pakistan is the lowest, so that's pretty sad.
Yeah, it's eye-opening. Yeah, definitely. And that's what I think as well, like, to work in Pakistan is like, at where I work right now, I had an opportunity to transfer to Pakistan, and I was eager. I was looking forward to it. But the more I know about it, the more I think that maybe it's not the best place suited because I haven't grown up there. I don't know how to fit in as well enough. Like, already it's kind of a struggle to fit in Hong Kong culture, to work in Pakistani culture as a working female, working individual. I definitely think it's a lot more challenging. And I would like to have more background on that beforehand,
Yeah, for sure. And it's changing. Some of my cousins in Pakistan work now. My girl cousins. Yeah. It's changing slowly in the big cities, but it's still not quite there yet. Lots of people are worried because guys can be troublesome at the office and commuting to work can be dangerous in Pakistan.
Yeah, that's also something. Yeah, like basic stuff that we take for granted living in big cities, or our cities right now, is that traveling is easy, communicating is easy, dressing how you want to dress is easy. But maybe in traditional cultures or in very Pakistani cultures where gossip is like the most normal thing and everyone knows your family or whatever, then I think it's harder. I feel like it's a lot easier to work in Hong Kong compared to Pakistan for sure. Easiest would be like London because language is not a barrier. And honestly, if language wasn't a barrier in Hong Kong, you would also do well here because there are some jobs, there are like a lot of openings for, especially for fresh grads. If you like in university doing internships, doing whatever have you, a lot of like graduate positions out there. It just, I would rank UK higher because it's so much easier to communicate, to get along, to find your niche in the world. Whereas Hong Kong, you have to really fit in. You have to like sacrifice some of your own beliefs and your own cultures. For example, like to us, eating halal food, no big deal, whatever, just avoid pork, just don't have this, blah, blah, blah. But in Hong Kong, everyone gets that. There's a lot of problems about that as well. They're like, you can't have pork? What? You know, like this kind of, a lot of this kind of experience. I'm sure you have that too in America, but maybe it's more accepted. I'm not sure.
Well, we do have that here as well. Some people are really surprised, but surprisingly, it's quite accommodating in general. When you go to restaurants, they have options for vegetarians, for people with various diets, and then, of course, they might not have halal meat, but they understand that. And there's usually an alternative that you can get. Like, you can get a something vegetarian, right? Whereas there is something I notice here, some kind of problem when I go to Asian restaurants.
Right.
Their soups or noodles might be vegetarian or have chicken in them or something, but the broth might still have pork.
Exactly. They use pork bones. They just don't get it. Get the flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you ask them, hey, I don't eat pork, or, I don't want broth made out of pork. They don't get it. They're just like, what the heck? It's vegetarian, but it's not vegetarian.
And that's like, you're literally feeding me a lie, you know? Like, I'm not down with that. And same for like, the fact that they don't get that what halal is a thing, and that how we do halal eating, consumption, blah, blah, blah. It all translates to like other parts of your life. Like, I was having chocolate one time at work, and they're like, can you have that? Is it halal? And it becomes a meme for them. It becomes a joke that they can use against you. Like, oh, can you have this? Can you have that? So there are definitely a lot of negative connotations to being Pakistani or religious or whatever have you. So.
Right, makes sense. And I think, to be fair, any country that's not diverse is going to have that issue, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People who are not Pakistani and are trying to live in Pakistan, I've heard they have a pretty hard time as well. Yeah, I've heard
that a lot of Chinese people moving to Pakistan, like to Islamabad for business or something. Yeah. So like Hypermart, it's like a Chinese company as well, and Miniso, which is also China owned, have been moving to Pakistan for business. Yeah, so definitely they find it a bit harder as well to get used to it and to get like our way of doing things. So yeah, both ways, of course. I'm not saying it's Hong Kong has a problem, but yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think I got a much better idea of Hong Kong now, actually, talking to you.
I'm sorry, my monologuing is quite long. Sorry?
Yeah, no, it's good. You're fine. Are your parents looking for a rishta for you?
No, my parents are quite open, actually. They're like, if you find one, great. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's both ways for me.
So they're pretty open-minded, huh?
Yes, they're okay.
What about, like, would it be okay if you married a Chinese person or something?
My mom would kill me, my god. For her, the number one thing is Muslim, but, for me as well.
Yeah, right.
But I'm a lazy person by default. So I prefer someone who's Pakistani, so I won't have to explain my culture to them, or explain, this is how we do things. Like, yes, we're arguing right now, but it's not really arguing, it's just us talking loudly at each other. So it's a lot easier to find your own people, but my mom is whatever. My dad does not care, as long as I'm happy and Muslim.
Yeah. I think you raised a great point, actually, because I think a lot of people growing up, like a lot of young people, right, they think it's really exciting and exotic to kind of marry somebody or just date somebody outside of your culture or background, right? It's exciting. It's different, but if you think about it, it is really hard down the road when people like that commit for the long term. It can be, there can be a lot of barriers.
There's more work into it, yeah.
I've seen couples that are married interracially, past 10 years, and they still have that. They have great marriages, but they still have some kind of.
Honestly, in Hong Kong, I've met quite a few like Pakistanis like kids and their parents as well, and most of them end in divorce. Like Chinese mother, Pakistani father, or Filipino mother, Pakistani father. They don't really connect afterwards. In the beginning it's fun, and then later on divorce or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's actually a whole new bucket of worms or whatever to deal with later. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a whole different can of worms. But yeah, I think the
can of worms. Sorry, yes, bucket of worms.
Bucket of worms.
Again, this is showing you like I'm from Hong Kong, okay? I'm not American.
Yeah. No, it's fair. Cool. Thanks.
No problem. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.